Welcome to the Core Coaches Corner, where we take a principle from one of the 7 core healthy and happy habits and talk about it through a core lens. Today, I'm joined with Amy, and Amy and I are going to be talking about what, Amy?
Deciding whether to have a conflict conversation.
Yeah. One of the very most important things to do in setting up a conflict resolution conversation to go well is it comes right before you even fight, right? Which is deciding whether or not it's healthy to have a fight. And do you want to talk a little about that, or do you want me to talk a little bit about it?
One thing about that, because every time you have a conflict conversation, it takes from your relationship reservoir, meaning like the capital of you two together, it depletes that a little bit when you have this kind of conversation. And so you want to make sure that you're okay depleting a little bit.
Yeah. And that's a really good conflict is absolutely essential to have in order to have a healthy relationship. You have to deal with things if you want a close, healthy relationship. And fights absolutely take from the relationship reservoir. They are a drain in the reservoir, but there are times when they're necessary drains. And core, let's talk about that for just a second. Even deciding, right, if a conflict is worth having, how does core show up there, Amy?
Well, for one, like we talked about last week, you may not want to have the conversation if you're certain types, like the O's don't really want to have it.
C's struggle.
C's a little bit, yeah. But also it may seem more important to certain types to have the conversation, which is why I think it's nice to talk about deciding how to have, if to have it first.
Yes.
For example, you might want to fight about the dishes if you're an E, because you load the dishwasher a certain way and it's meant to be done.
Right. There's a right way to do it and the right time to do it. Right.
I lived with a cousin for a year, my freshman year of college, and her dad is definitely an E. It's his way and that's the way. And when I moved into the house, he had dishwashing 101 for me. He said, I built the dishwasher the right way.
Did you get on board?
I did. I was living at their house, so I got on board.
Good. Was it the right way?
Well, since I've had that experience as a mom now, I have my opinions about how I think dishwasher should be do. But I've also learned if I'm asking for help to accept the help given.
Right. Yeah. Some important things there. And I actually want to just highlight one of the, just as a little bonus aside here, with E's, because E's typically are comfortable having conflict if they're going to, and E's are willing to fight it out, to do it the right way. And E's also, interestingly, have a pretty predictable dynamic around avoiding conflict that I think is important to understand in E'ness. And that happens in 2 ways. One, sometimes E's thoughts are almost sacred to them. They think through things really thoroughly, and they are the most internal processors of any of the core types. And so E's thoughts and opinions on things become really almost sacred to them. And so sometimes they are reluctant to engage with someone if they don't think that either the relationship is worth it or the other person is going to really be interested in what they have to say. And if the E thinks either of those things, sometimes they will avoid or put off important conversations to have because of either of those 2 reasons. Either they think that the relationship isn't really worth the investment, sharing my casting my pearls before you, um, or they if they feel like the other person isn't going to really care or value their opinion, sometimes these will avoid things that are important conversations to have. So that's just a little bonus piece there. In assessing, there are three different categories of fights as I think about them. Um, there are fights that shouldn't be had at all, that and sometimes um we have those fights and sometimes we don't have those fights. That but the healthy there is to not have fights that are not necessary or healthy to have. The second category is fights that we should have, conflicts that we should address that we do poorly. And then the third category are fights or conflicts that we should have that we do well. And understanding those three categories and how to navigate them is a really important part of healthful or healthy conflict resolution. And the two healthy options there are not having the fights that we shouldn't have, and having the fights that we should have and doing it in a healthy way. The two categories there that you want to avoid are having fights that we shouldn't have and having fights that we should have and doing it poorly. So you can kind of think about those four different buckets, and when you're going into or considering having a fight or going into a fight, if you can kind of think about which of those four buckets the situation lines up in, it can be helpful.
Yeah, one of the things that you talk about in this the conflict resolution module is how to assess whether to have the conversation. And so you have to ask yourself, is it my business? And is it necessary?
Yeah.
I would love to hear more about, is it my business?
Yeah. So there the three hacks, three questions that in my mind are really great hacks to assess which of those categories it goes into, and whether or not it's worth having a fight or addressing a conflict or not. And you address two of them, which is this any of my business? Because there are lots of things that bother us that are not any of our business. And what?
Like the dishwasher.
The point, it was exactly right on that, right? Like, and part of this depends on whether you're in a relationship with an equal or whether there's a power hierarchical difference in the relationship.
Right. Like if it's mom kid, I get to have a say in this is how I prefer the dishwasher to.
Exactly. Yep. That's more your business.
Yeah.
Right. And depending on the age of your kid as well.
Right. Like once they get to be a certain age, then it kind of becomes, well, we're pretty much equal and you're offering me help and I need to accept.
Totally. My one of our daughters and her husband are living with us right now as he goes through med school, and Sydney loads the dishwasher very differently than I load the dishwasher. And sometimes I'll open it and I'm like, oh my goodness, Sydney. And then I think that, you know what, I'm glad she's loading the dishwasher. And who cares if, it's not loaded as efficiently as I might want it loaded or whatever. I'm just glad she's now, but my 15-year-old or my 11-year-old, I'm not okay with them just loading the dishwasher. Not necessarily okay with them loading the dishwasher however they want. But if it's a relationship among equals, you and your spouse, you and a coworker, a friend, a sibling, or your boss, or a parent, or whatever, then you don't get to healthfully dictate how they do things. And so there might be things that bug me, but that are really none of my business. How you clean the toilet, or how you do your job, or how you drive the car. These are all how you load the dishwasher, how you hang your clothes up, or how I hang my clothes, whatever, there might be things that bug me, um, but they're absolutely none of my business that we should never fight about. And sometimes ours will struggle with that initial thing because when something comes on the radar of an R, the R brain wants to address it. And so it can be really difficult for the R. The R tends to think that anything is their business. If I'm thinking about it and it's bugging me, it's my business. I'm going to say something about it. And so having a space between stimulus and response can be really challenging for the R. And it can be really hard for the R to not just respond when something bugs them. Thoughts on that? You've got a fair amount of R in you.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's great advice, because it's kind of like saying, hey, if you know you have either a primary R or secondary R, when you walk into the room and the dishwasher is not set up, loaded the way you want, and it's an equal who did it, you have a second to be like, oh, should I comment or not?
Bite your tongue, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, that's not the time.
Yeah.
I should say, thanks for doing the dishes.
Yeah. So all kinds of those things that if the answer is no, it's not your business, you shouldn't fight. The second category of, is it necessary? So can you think of examples of things that might be your business, but not necessary to fight about?
Okay, so things that are my business. Wait, that I shouldn't fight about?
Yeah.
Besides, I see. It's not my business or my business.
So it is your business, but it's not necessary to fight about.
You mean like kind of like my job or how I do things, maybe?
That's probably not your business or Jason's business.
What my business is, then that will help everybody.
So your business are things over which you have responsibility and stewardship, right? How you clean the toilet, how you load the dishwasher, how you hang up your clothes, how you drive the car. Those are all things that are your responsibility. How your partner does those things are not. And here's the hack. Here's the third kind of question to ask yourself. That is a really simple hack that almost always will bring this category into real clear focus. And that is this going to bother me tomorrow, next week, next month? Because sometimes things bother me because I'm sucking mud and I'm out of resources, and I've had a really hard day, or I'm really tired, or my window of tolerance is low, or I'm out of my window of tolerance, or my hormones are out of whack, or whatever. And so there are lots of times when my brain might want to fight about something that isn't necessary to fight about, because the reason why I want to fight about it is because I'm not in a good place, not because that issue is really important to me. Right. So Jason leaving, I don't know, leaving his coat in the living room, might bug you, might even be your business if you just clean the living room or something, but might not be worth a fight. Right?
I think a lot of things like that in relationships.
Tons.
So, like when you're deciding whether it's necessary, is like, how much is it bothering you?
Exactly.
And bothering you only because you're having a bad day, or does it bother you every day?
Yeah. Now you have to be careful as an O, Amy, because your brain can pretty quickly convince you that nothing's worth fighting about.
Yeah. I know. what that was like.
I'm sure this is only bothering me because I'm sucking mud. I'm sure it's only bothering me because I'm having a bad day. I mean, your O brain can pretty quickly talk you into avoiding any fight, any conflict, because your O brain doesn't want to go into conflict.
Well, this kind of leads back into the conversation we had last week about being brave. So if you come to the conclusion that, yes, this does keep bothering me, whether it's a good day or a bad day, and it continues to bug, then you might have to just be brave and have it.
Absolutely. So if the answer is yes to both of those questions, this is my business and it is necessary because, yeah, this bugged me yesterday. It's going to bug me tomorrow. It's going to bug me when it happens next month or next year. Yeah, this is an issue that is bothersome to me. Then if the answer is yes to both of those things, then it is in that category of fights that are healthy to have. And then you want to move forward with doing it in a healthy way. And it becomes unhealthy if the answer is yes to both of those questions. It is my business, it is necessary, and you avoid. Mm-hmm. Then you're avoiding things that you shouldn't be avoiding, and that becomes unhealthy.
You know what's funny is, like, I think most people probably are doing that, and they're probably also creating fights they shouldn't be having.
Yeah, I mean we tend to land in those two unhealthy categories of either not having fights that we should be having, mm-hmm. or having fights that we should be having and doing it poorly. We tend to land in those buckets more often than we should. And so understanding that these I was going to say nuances. I don't know that they're that subtle, but understanding how to navigate those questions can be really helpful in managing your core temperament. Because C's, O's, R's, and E's are going to predictably struggle with different aspects of that initial setup. What were you going to say? Sorry.
The E that does really want things a certain way, like, and it does bug them every day, like, whether it's kind of like, it's not my business, but
that's a business thing, right? It probably wasn't really your uncle's business, frankly, how you loaded the dishwasher, as long as you were willing to load the dishwasher. Mm-hmm. That probably shouldn't have gotten past that first question in his mind. But because he's an E, he stepped into a place that he probably shouldn't have healthfully stepped into. And then okay, so why don't you want to have unnecessary fights?
Well, for one, it nicks the relationship, like we talked about. You know, you have that reservoir and it drains some, and it's kind of a drag too. Like, not very fun to have.
Totally. You don't. There's enough. There are enough things that drain a relationship and that make life challenging just by living together and sharing a life together. There are enough things that happen regardless of what we're trying to do that you do not want to add extra things. It's like parents who say, well, you know, I want to make sure that I don't compliment my kid too much, or, you know, I don't say too many positive things because I don't want him getting a big head, or I don't want him being too confident. So dumb. Mm-hmm. Life kicks the crap out of us. Mm-hmm. And the last thing you need to worry about 99.99% of your kids is them feeling too good about themselves. And it's kind of that same principle that, like, life is hard enough. Having a healthy relationship is hard enough. You don't need to pile on and make it even more hard than it inherently is. So anyway, good thoughts. Any closing thoughts, Amy?
No, I guess just to reiterate, like, before you have the conflict conversation, ask yourself, you know, is this necessary? And like, is it my business?
Yeah. Those three questions. Is it my business? Is it necessary? And then, is this going to bug me next week, next month, next year? You can remember those 3 questions. It will really help you set it up to go well. Thank you. Great conversation. Have a good day.